What happens when daytime TV meets explosive royal scandal? You get one of the most jaw-dropping confrontations ever broadcast live. The View, known for its sharp debates and outspoken panelists, was the unlikely battleground for an emotionally charged, headline-dominating moment. Meghan Markle, still reeling from a bombshell leak revealing sensitive details about her children, walked into what she expected to be a sympathetic segment. What she got instead was a pointed, relentless interrogation by none other than Joy Behar, a woman known for pulling no punches and hiding behind no filters. Before we dive into what unfolded, let's set the stage. Meghan Markle had come on the show intending to talk about her foundation's latest efforts in youth outreach and mental health awareness. But there was a cloud over everything. News had just broken that a high-end Los Angeles hospital had allegedly leaked confidential information about her children, legal names, hospital documents, and even rumored notes from delivery staff. It wasn't just a privacy issue. It was a direct attack on one of the few things Meghan and Harry had fought tooth and nail to protect: their kids' anonymity. Joy Behar, ever the seasoned broadcaster, did not ease Meghan into the topic. Her very first question drew audible gasps from the audience. "Meghan," she said, "you've often spoken about protecting your children's privacy. But now that this leak has happened, can you really say you've kept them out of the public eye?" Meghan blinked, taken aback but not completely thrown. She launched into a carefully measured response, one clearly coached by legal advisors. "Joy, what happened was a gross violation of medical privacy and basic human decency. My husband and I have done everything we can to give our children the kind of safe, private life most people take for granted." But Joy wasn't satisfied. And yet she pressed, "You've done documentaries, interviews, and countless public appearances where your children are mentioned, shown, or alluded to. At some point, don't you have to take some accountability for letting them enter the media narrative in the first place?" The studio was dead silent. Meghan's posture stiffened. Her tone tightened. "That's an unfair characterization," she replied. "We've been very careful, extremely thoughtful. Any time our children have been in the public view, it was with purpose and discretion." Joy didn't blink. "Purpose and discretion? Meghan, you know how this business works. A single photo is worth thousands of headlines. If you're going to share glimpses of your kids in glossy Netflix specials and then cry foul when people dig deeper, some might say you're playing both sides." Meghan's eyes flashed. She smiled tightly. There is a world of difference between a curated, controlled image and a hospital leaking private medical records. That's not public interest. That's a crime. This was no longer a conversation. It was a clash of ideologies. Meghan believed in her right to control her narrative, even while existing in the public eye. Joy Behar, a longtime media veteran, seemed to believe once you open that door, even a crack, you no longer get to slam it shut and call for privacy. "Here's the thing," Joy added, leaning forward. "I agree, the leak is awful. No argument there. But don't you think it's time to admit that being half in and half out of the spotlight isn't sustainable? You either live your life in private, or you monetize it. You can't keep walking that tightrope." Meghan visibly stiffened. "I'm here to talk about solutions," she said, deflecting expertly. "Legal remedies. Systemic issues within healthcare confidentiality. This shouldn't be about my parenting decisions. It should be about holding the system accountable." But Joy wasn't letting go. Parenting decisions are exactly what this is about. Because the system wouldn't have anything to leak if your team hadn't made selective public choices from the beginning. Let's call it what it is. At this point, even the usually chatty audience had gone quiet. Meghan, who'd walked into the studio with a sense of mission and control, now looked visibly shaken. She tried to regroup, offering a soft-spoken closing statement about resilience and the importance of protecting children. But the energy in the room had shifted. Joy's tone hadn't been cruel, it had been clinical, surgical. The kind of confrontation you can't brush off with a PR statement. What made this moment so seismic wasn't just the raw honesty, it was the subtext. Two women on opposite ends of the public life spectrum. One, born into American media culture and hardened by decades in the trenches. The other, still struggling to rewrite the rules of royalty in the age of internet exposure. And when those worlds collided, the result was a televised moment that no one saw coming. The cameras stopped rolling, but the drama didn't. What happened backstage after Meghan Markle's emotionally intense appearance on The View was every bit as gripping as the live broadcast, maybe even more. While Joy Behar stayed seated, calmly debriefing with the producers and casually chatting with Whoopi and the rest of the panel, Meghan was ushered into a private room, looking visibly shaken. According to multiple sources present during the taping, Meghan didn't just walk off quietly. She reportedly turned to a member of her team and whispered sharply, "That was a setup." Tension was sky high. Meghan's entourage immediately sprang into damage control mode. Her publicist was already drafting a statement while her legal advisor was on the phone, likely with counsel either in London or Los Angeles. Meghan herself sat down, head in hands for a moment, before standing up and pacing the room. Witnesses said she kept repeating variations of, "This wasn't supposed to go like this," and "Why didn't they stick to the talking points?" Meanwhile, over at the production table, things were more composed but no less buzzing. Joy Behar, known for shrugging off controversy like rain off a raincoat, was laughing with Whoopi Goldberg about how nobody ever likes the truth on live TV. But behind that smile, even she seemed to acknowledge that the interview had taken a sharper, more personal turn than anyone expected. One producer reportedly muttered under their breath, "Well, this is going viral in about 5 minutes." And they were right. Within minutes of the segment airing, clips began circulating across X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Hashtags like #MeghanShoy and #ViewShowdown began trending. What viewers latched onto wasn't just the tension, it was the realness. This wasn't polished PR spin or a carefully arranged Netflix segment. This was live confrontation, unfiltered and in real time. Meghan's team released a short, terse statement through a spokesperson. The Duchess of Sussex appeared on The View with the goal of discussing serious issues related to medical privacy and data security. It is unfortunate that the conversation was derailed by unfair personal attacks. The statement didn't name Joy Behar directly, but everyone knew who it was aimed at. Backstage, however, the tension only thickened. Meghan reportedly told her team she felt ambushed, adding that she never would have agreed to the interview had she known Joy planned to ask about the hospital leak in such an aggressive way. But producers at The View had receipts, emails, pre-interview outlines, and topic notes, all of which, according to insiders, clearly mentioned the controversy as a likely discussion point. Meghan's team had apparently reviewed the topics and given a green light. If someone dropped the ball, it wasn't The View. And that's when the British press pounced. As expected, tabloids like the Daily Mail and the Sun seized on the moment like sharks circling blood in the water. Headlines blared things like "Behar exposes Meghan's hypocrisy on American TV" and "TV meltdown. Duchess of Drama walks out after grilling." Back home, reactions were split. Some Americans saw Joy as cruel and lacking empathy, while others praised her for doing what few hosts ever dared: challenge the royal narrative head-on. What made it worse for Meghan was that this wasn't just any platform. The View is seen as a kind of home turf for progressive voices, feminist discourse, and social advocacy, all things Meghan associates herself with. To be called out on that stage, in front of that audience, by someone like Joy Behar? That stung. It wasn't Fox News. It wasn't Piers Morgan. This hit differently. Behind the scenes, ABC's executives were reportedly divided. Some felt Joy had gone too hard, while others celebrated the moment as a ratings win. The segment had already clocked millions of views online within hours, and clips were being repackaged and discussed by pundits across cable news. For The View, it was the kind of viral lightning strike every network dreams of. For Meghan, a PR disaster, one that she couldn't control or re-edit after the fact. But perhaps the most revealing thing came not from Meghan or Joy, but from Sunny Hostin, a co-host on The View who had largely stayed quiet during the tense exchange. As the show wrapped up, Sunny leaned into her mic and said softly, "At some point, we all have to choose whether we're telling our story or selling it." That one line, unscripted, almost whispered, was clipped and posted by viewers across platforms, instantly becoming a rallying quote for critics and supporters alike. What unfolded behind the scenes only deepened the on-air drama. Meghan didn't just walk off set. She walked into yet another chapter of a story that never seems to end. The question now isn't whether the public believes Meghan's truth. It's whether they're finally growing tired of hearing about it. As the dust began to settle from Meghan Markle's dramatic appearance on The View, a surprising new name entered the conversation, one with unmatched influence in Meghan's media orbit: Oprah Winfrey. For those who remember, Oprah was the original gatekeeper of Meghan and Harry's public truth, the one who gave them the global platform to lay bare their royal grievances. But this time, behind closed doors, sources close to Oprah say she was less than impressed by what happened on The View. Not because Meghan had been ambushed, but because she had walked into the arena unprepared for a real challenge. According to a close friend of Oprah's inner circle, Winfrey was disappointed by how quickly Meghan lost control of the narrative and failed to recover her composure. The friend reportedly said, "Oprah understands how to take heat. That's what you sign up for when you want the microphone. If Meghan wants to control the message, she needs to be better at handling pushback." It was a rare note of constructive criticism from someone who's been one of Meghan's most public defenders. Hollywood, meanwhile, was split. On one hand, media consultants and publicists praised Meghan's willingness to even appear on The View at such a sensitive moment, especially when most celebrities would have canceled last minute. On the other, a growing number of industry insiders quietly admitted they were seeing reputation fatigue setting in around the Sussex brand. It's the same story over and over. One Netflix producer was overheard saying, "People are starting to tune out unless there's a new twist or a new villain." And this time, the villain wasn't the British monarchy. It was Joy Behar, a liberal American TV icon on a liberal American show. That shift made the backlash harder to explain. There was no scapegoat across the pond, no Buckingham Palace press office to blame. This was all happening on Meghan's home turf, and that made the fallout harder to control. But the biggest tremors were felt not in media circles or Hollywood brunches, but in Meghan's own camp. Reports surfaced that her inner team was furious about how the appearance had been handled, with some pushing for major staffing changes. One anonymous aide allegedly told a journalist, "If we can't even control a daytime show, how are we going to manage the next Netflix rollout or the new Archewell campaign?" Meghan was reportedly taking time to reflect and regroup, classic PR speak for stepping back and reassessing strategy. Meanwhile, Prince Harry, though not present at The View, was said to be livid. Multiple insiders claim he reached out to the show's producers demanding clarification on how the interview was conducted, though ABC has remained silent on any behind-the-scenes conversations. What's clear is that this wasn't just a one-day story. It has ripple effects that will shape how and if Meghan continues to appear on public platforms. Even across the Atlantic, reactions were swift. Royal commentators pounced on the episode as proof that the American media was turning on the Sussexes. Tabloids published side-by-side comparisons of Meghan's emotional responses with past royal appearances, attempting to paint her as unstable, ungrateful, or calculating, depending on the outlet's political leanings. What was once considered her strongest asset, her ability to connect through emotion and relatability, was now being questioned. Had the public grown weary of the same talking points? Was there still room for Meghan to evolve her message, Or had the narrative arc already peaked? And then came a subtle but powerful move. ABC pulled the clip from several of its YouTube and Instagram accounts without explanation. Whether it was at Meghan's team's request or simply an internal editorial decision, it left a curious vacuum, one that only fueled speculation. The clip, of course, lived on through screen recordings and reposts, racking up millions of views on third-party channels. But the gesture itself suggested one thing: damage control was in full effect. The question now becomes, where does Meghan go from here? Can she pivot, reframe, and reclaim her voice in a media world that's slowly turning skeptical? Or has this very public unraveling on The View marked a turning point, not just in her public image, but in her relationship with American audiences? As the dust continues to settle around Meghan Markle's explosive confrontation with Joy Behar on The View, the silence from Buckingham Palace has been deafening and telling. Traditionally, the royal family abides by the age-old mantra, never complain, never explain, but sources close to royal aides hinted that palace staff were watching closely, even somewhat amused by the debacle. One insider reportedly told a UK publication, "For once, we don't have to say anything. America's handling it for us." It was a damning assessment, and one that highlighted the new dilemma facing Meghan and Prince Harry. If the American media turns skeptical, there's nowhere left to go. For years, the Sussexes have built their brand on controlled narratives, polished interviews, and select partnerships with platforms that offered sympathetic ears. Oprah, Netflix, archetypes. But The View marked a shift, the first time Meghan faced real-time, unscripted resistance from voices who would traditionally be considered allies. And that's what makes this moment feel like more than just a viral skirmish. It feels like a reckoning. Behind the scenes, Meghan's team is said to be recalibrating everything. From social media strategy to media appearances to the very tone of her messaging, it's all reportedly on the table. A source close to Archewell said, "There's recognition now that the audience wants less trauma and more triumph. People want to see growth, not just grievances." Whether Meghan will heed that advice remains to be seen, but the pressure is mounting. Meanwhile, Prince Harry has taken on the role of protector once again. Those close to the couple say he's furious, not just at Joy Behar, but at the entire media apparatus that he feels continues to poke and provoke them. He's reportedly exploring options for more controlled platforms to share their future projects, meaning we may see a return to documentaries and podcasts where every frame is tightly managed. But that raises its own concern. How do you build authenticity if everything is scripted? Public reaction remains divided. Meghan's fans, still strong and vocal, argue she was ambushed and disrespected, while critics say she was simply challenged and couldn't handle it. The debate is raging online, but what's new is this: many people in the middle, those who once gave her the benefit of the doubt, are beginning to express fatigue. Not hatred, not disdain, but exhaustion. And in today's media cycle, that's more dangerous than either. In Hollywood, production companies and media buyers are watching closely. While Meghan and Harry still attract attention, advertisers are increasingly wary of controversy. One insider put it bluntly: they're high risk, high reward, and lately, the risk is starting to outweigh the reward. It's not just about attention anymore. It's about whether the Sussexes still offer value without constantly courting conflict. Back in Montecito, the couple is reportedly laying low. No public appearances. No statements. No carefully curated Instagram posts. It's as if they know this one hurt, and they're waiting to see how deep the cut goes. But maybe that's the real turning point. Not a meltdown. Not a blowout. Just silence. A pause in the constant storytelling that has defined their post-royal lives. For once, Meghan and Harry aren't controlling the narrative, and that's a position they're clearly not used to. So where does this story go from here? That's up to them. The world is still watching. But this time, It's not waiting for another bombshell. It's waiting for something real, or for the silence to say it all.